Incredible Chef Dad revealed a heartwarming recipe that changed everything for a crying baby, and Daniel stood in the kitchen, the moonlight pouring through the window like a gentle hug. He didn't know if the aroma of the chicken soup he was preparing could work wonders on his teething toddler, Sarah, but he sure hoped it would. Just weeks after his wife's passing, he felt like a ship lost at sea caught in waves of grief and responsibility. At just 32, juggling two jobs while taking care of a vibrant, wailing child was no easy feat. The moments of laughter that used to fill their home had turned into echoes that hurt like a steel hammer. Each sob from Sarah felt like a reminder of the love that was really never gone, but felt perpetually out of reach. As he stirred the pot, recalling the cherished recipe from his grandmother, warmth spread through him like the steam rising into the air. This was supposed to be healing magic, just as she'd claimed. Love is the secret ingredient, she'd whisper, and with each slice of garlic and sprinkle of salt, he desperately tried to infuse that love into the dish. The comforting smell drifted beyond their door, a siren call to curious neighbors who didn't quite know the struggle behind those closed windows. Him cooking. Can you believe that? He overheard one wealthy neighbor snicker as he glanced outside to see a cluster of people peering in. The whispers stung, each word felt like a judgmental jab, prodding at the very core of his worthiness. Scoffing at his humble cooking was like spitting on the memories they had built together. But it also ignited a fire within him. This soup had the power not just to soothe his daughter, but also to prove to them all that he was capable of more than just scraping by. Just a week after the soup filled their home with warmth, Daniel began to feel glimpses of joy again. Neighbors, once mere acquaintances, became friends, sharing recipes, laughter, and moments that reminded him of a community he longed to be part of. A high-five exchanged over the fence with Mr. Lee almost felt like a vault of hope. Together, they laughed, remembering the foolishness of broken lawn mowers and what to plant for spring. But just as he started feeling the threads of happiness weave through the fabric of his day, everything changed. Sarah's teething spiraled into feverish pain that stripped the color from Daniel's world. The clock ticked mercilessly, each second a reminder of his resolve crumbling beneath the weight of his fears. The soup, once a symbol of comfort, now felt like an untouched ghost haunting his kitchen. Could he truly be a good father? Doubts crept in like shadows. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As evening fell, the quiet was suffocating, but instead of despair, something wonderful began to unfold. Neighbors, sensing the urgency, gathered on his doorstep. They brought bowls and spoons, smiles and camaraderie as they decided to share in the soup. His soup. In that moment, Daniel felt the palpable walls of isolation begin to crumble. Laughter filled the air, echoing the gentle love he had cherished with his wife. But uncertainty lingered, a reminder of the deep divides still present. Would this moment of unity last? Standing at the threshold of hope, Daniel grappled with the question that hung in the air. Could a pot of simmering broth truly heal a fractured community? As they shared stories and hearty laughter, he clung to that thought, wondering if love could truly bridge the gaps that had threatened to swallow him whole. As the laughter swirled around him, Daniel fought back tears. The warmth from the gathering wrapped around him like a snug blanket, but the shadows of doubt still hovered. Was this the start of something beautiful, or just a fleeting moment before they all returned to their separate lives? Each smile, each sip of soup shared, felt like a fragile bridge connecting him to a world he had nearly abandoned. Mr. Lee was the first to speak up, holding a bowl aloft like a trophy. "This is the best soup I've ever tasted. Who knew you had it in you, Daniel?" The other neighbors chimed in with enthusiastic agreement, each voice a gentle nudge pushing him away from despair, but he chuckled softly, the sound foreign to his ears. "Thanks, it's just a little family recipe." The ease in his voice masked the chaos swirling in his heart. Did he truly believe the soup could bring them closer? Or was it simply the joy of connection that filled him in that moment? Sarah, resting in her crib with a small blanket wrapped around her squeaky toy, let out a soft whimper, pulling Daniel's attention. Instantly, the laughter faded into a hush, the collective worry hanging thick in the air like fog. He moved to her side, his heart racing, a mix of fear and hope dancing in his chest. As he brushed a damp curl from her forehead, he remembered the soft caress of his wife's hand on his back when they shared moments like this together. His heart wrenched with the realization that she was missing but not absent. If he could just hold on to those memories, perhaps they could guide him on this difficult path. "Help me out, guys," he said, turning back toward his neighbors. "Let us turn this evening into something special for her. I want her to know we're not in this alone. Can we do that?" The neighbors exchanged tentative glances before nodding earnestly, smiles reappearing. Ideas erupted like fireworks, colorful banners, laughter-filled games, maybe even a small band to play cheerful tunes. Daniel felt a rush of adrenaline. This was not just about soup anymore. It was about family, community, and healing together as they planned. The energy in the air shifted. Fears began to melt away under the warmth of companionship. Laughter bubbled and mingled with the aroma of the soup, celebrating life in a way he hadn't allowed himself since Mara passed. But just as he started to feel a bit lighter, a knock echoed from the front door. It was sudden, breaking the moment like a glass shattering on the floor. The room turned quiet again. Daniel's heart thudded. Who could it be? With a gentle nudge, he walked to the door, and as he opened it, his breath hitched. Standing there was the last person he expected. Eyes filled with worry and hope, it was Mara's sister, Emily. "I came as soon as I heard," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel's heart raced. This encounter could change everything. Would it bring the family back together or remind him of what he had lost? The room behind him felt like a sanctuary, but Emily's presence pulled him into uncertain territory. He stood frozen, processing the moment. "Can you come in?" He finally managed, knowing that whatever happened next would shape their newfound community, for better or worse. He faced a crossroads, one that could either mend everything or break it apart once more. What would Emily reveal, and how would those revelations change the bond they were beginning to form? Emily stepped over the threshold, her presence heavy with unspoken words. The door clicked shut behind her, sealing in the warmth of the gathering, but also an air of tension that now draped over them like a fog. Daniel's heart hammered. He searched Emily's expression for signs of what was to come. There was worry etched in her brow, but also a flicker of determination in her eyes. She glanced back at the bubbling crowd, a mix of curiosity and concern on their faces, before turning her attention solely to him. "I heard you were having everyone over for soup," she began, her voice steadying. "I didn't want to miss it. Sarah needs all of this. You need it, too." Her words cut through the mix of emotions swirling within him. He swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. The people who had rallied around him seemed so full of life, while he felt like a ghost drifting between his memories. "Thanks for coming, he managed, finding his voice. "It really means a lot. Daniel." She hesitated, her eyes darting to the living room where familiar faces were chatting and laughing. "I wanted to talk about Mara, about her last days with that." The atmosphere shifted. Laughter became a distant echo. His world crashed to a moment of painful stillness. Just days ago, he had felt the stirrings of hope, yet now his heart clenched tighter. "Maybe we can talk later?" he suggested, though the way he spoke felt almost pleading. What he really wanted was a moment to breathe, to absorb the joy created in the previous hour. The soup, the laughs, their small community reaching out in ways he hadn't thought possible. She steadied her gaze on him, shaking her head firmly. "I don't think that's a good idea. I need you to know what she wanted for you and Sarah. It matters more than anything else right now." He hesitated. There was a conversation lurking, dark and looming, waiting to pounce if he allowed it. He looked back at Sarah, her tiny face peeking out from the crib, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in her father's heart. "I don't know if I'm ready," he whispered, and the words surprised him. Emily took a breath, visibly softening. "It's okay to feel that way. I'm not here to push. But I'm also not leaving until you hear me out. You've gathered this community tonight, right? They've taken the first steps towards healing, and so can you." The sincerity in her eyes melted some of his defenses, revealing the depth of his grief. As he stood there, He felt the shift around him, the warmth of the people gathered who wanted nothing more than to help, to support, and to be part of this new journey. All right. He nodded slowly, feeling a tiny flicker of resolve. Let us talk. Emily's shoulders relaxed slightly, as if lifting a weight off them both. The room felt charged with anticipation, a world of shared memories and hidden words waiting to be uncovered. Before they could delve deeper, an excited shout erupted from the living room. Mr. Lee was proposing a dance party to celebrate the soup, and laughter erupted in response. The sound washed over them, squeezing hope back into his heart. Maybe let us take a break, Daniel suggested, sensing they both needed it. We can talk in a bit. Just he took a moment to gather himself. I don't want to take away from this. Emily studied him, then nodded, a shared understanding passing silently between them. They backed away toward the other room, where joy and laughter swirled around like bright colors on a painter's palette. Daniel felt the fear ebbing away, even if just slightly. As he returned to the gathering, a new thought emerged. Perhaps this was the moment to embrace both the joy around him and the pain he had shelved away. Could he find a way to navigate both the celebration and the healing? Would sharing those memories of Mara create a path toward a brighter future, one he and T believed was still possible? Before he stepped fully into the crowd, he felt Emily's reassuring hand on his shoulder. It was a reminder that he wasn't walking this path alone. This evening could be more than just soup and fellowship. It could be the missing key he needed to unlock the authenticity of his grief and joy in the same breath. But just as he started to reconsider everything, another knock echoed, jarring Daniel once again. Would the evening's direction shift yet again? Daniel's heart raced as he turned toward the door, the unexpected knock slicing through the moment like a knife. Who could it be? The warmth from the gathering faded, replaced by a tightness in his chest. Emily's hand dropped from his shoulder, her expression morphing to one of curiosity mixed with concern. They both exchanged glances, grudgingly drawn back into the murky waters of uncertainty. Should I get it? Daniel asked hesitantly, but his feet remained rooted. He'd almost forgotten about the world beyond that door, where laughter and joy mingled effortlessly. Just as he was about to reach for the handle, another knock echoed, louder this time. The light-hearted chatter beyond felt worlds away. Yeah, go ahead, Emily urged, giving a gentle nod. He took a deep breath and swung the door open. Standing before him was a familiar face, yet one he hadn't expected to see that evening. It was Laura, his neighbor and friend from down the street, holding a small basket filled with baked goods, her face flushed with excitement. I heard the laughter and thought I'd join the party, she exclaimed, waving the basket in delight that Daniel's tense shoulders eased just a fraction, if only because her enthusiasm brought an instant wave of warmth. Laura, you made it. He stepped aside to let her in, and her energy seemed to uplift the room. Someone from the crowd shouted, "Bring those cookies here," and laughter erupted again. Laura grinned, quickly distributing her treats to eager hands. The party resumed its lively rhythm, music spilling from the speakers, legs starting to sway, and laughter filling the air. Seeing the joy return to the faces around him, Daniel realized the impact of community, how it could anchor even the heaviest hearts. He turned back to Emily, who was watching the gathering with a bittersweet smile. "See," she said softly, "this is hope. These moments, they can heal." Daniel nodded, but his heart felt heavy again. Suddenly, the memories of Mara flooded back, intertwined with the sweetness of the evening. He swallowed hard, his throat constricting with unexpressed feelings. "I want to talk," he admitted, looking into Emily's eyes. The resolve had taken root again, a stubborn yet tender hope that maybe, just maybe, tonight could offer both laughter and healing. With the sounds of the gathering spilling into the quiet corner they declaimed, Daniel gently ushered Emily toward a space away from the crowd. He avoided the dancing, the celebrations that were finally catching fire. Taking a seat on the edge of a cozy rug, he felt the tension in his muscles loosen a bit. Just as Emily settled beside him, another sudden commotion arose. They both turned to see Mr. Lee laughing at someone's sudden dance misstep, an errant elbow knocking a drink from a table. Heads turned, shoulders shook with laughter, but Daniel's gaze was drawn back to Emily. The moment felt fragile, like a precious bubble ready to burst. "About Mara," he started, his voice barely more than a whisper, churning with uncertainty. Yes, Emily responded, her eyes steady and strong, ready to catch any fall. It's time to share those stories. To let her live on through you and Sarah. What she wanted, it's important. His breath hitched in his throat. The party danced on, but he was now on the cusp of something deeper floating between laughter and sorrow. Then Daniel felt an unexpected rush of fear. What if sharing would only bring more pain? But as he looked around, he saw faces full of love and belonging. The warmth of the oven-fresh cookies wafted delicately through the air, a reminder that sweetness often followed the bitter. Daniel took another deep breath, the night balancing on the edge of revelation and connection. Would revisiting memories guide them to healing, or would it pull them under? Then, as if on cue, another knock sounded. It was more persistent this time. Would this new arrival disrupt the delicate balance they were trying to establish, or would it bring in yet another layer to the already rich tapestry of the evening? Daniel shot a glance at Emily, their unspoken questions hanging in the air, thick as the sweet scent of cookies weaving through the apartment. The new knock echoed again, this time almost demanding. He swallowed hard, unsure if he was ready for yet another interruption. Should I? He started to ask, but Emily nodded resolutely. Yes, maybe it's someone who can lift the mood even more. With feet that felt heavier than before, Daniel pushed himself off the rug and moved toward the door again. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, laughter mingling with the music, but his heart thudded with every step. He hesitated for a heartbeat, then opened the door wide. Standing there was someone unexpected, Sarah, his younger sister. She beamed back at him, clutching an armful of colorful balloons. I heard you were having a bash. I couldn't miss it. Her eyes sparkled with excitement and innocence, a stark contrast to the heavy thoughts clouding Daniel's mind. Sarah, come in. He stepped aside, allowing her to glide past. The room was immediately brighter, adding energy to the warmth already present. She rushed in, searching for familiar faces, her laughter ringing out like chimes. Emily's smile faltered slightly at Sarah's entrance, but only for a moment. She quickly recovered, diving back into conversation with friends. Daniel felt a wave of joy wash over him, yet also a twinge of anxiety. Sarah often reminded him of their childhood, moments filled with laughter before Mara's passing had turned their world upside down. Where did you find those balloons? He had to ask, the question tumbling from his lips as she bounced between guests, leaving a trail of festivity. Party store? I thought we needed more color. She chirped, beaming from ear to ear. With every triumphant bounce, it felt like she was chasing away the shadows lurking in Daniel's heart. As the party unfolded anew, Daniel glanced over to see Emily observing Sarah, her expression a mix of admiration and melancholy. It struck him then, how finely they're all balancing on this tightrope between joy and sorrow. Want to help me surprise them? Sarah asked, waving a balloon in the air excitedly. Let us do a balloon drop. Daniel chuckled, caught off guard by his sister's enthusiasm. The thought sparked a flicker of warmth inside him, loosening the knots in his stomach. Lead the way, he replied, falling into step beside her. In the excitement of execution, the heaviness surrounding Mara started to lift, even if just a little. As they strung the balloons across the ceiling, he focused on the laughter surrounding him, the bright colors reflecting hope beneath the strain of it all. He turned to Sarah. You know, it's okay to have fun again. To remember her without sadness. She would want us to, Sarah declared, stuffing her hands inside the balloons as if they contained her joy itself. Daniel felt a warmth bloom in his chest at that simple acknowledgement. Just as they finished hanging the last balloon, Emily approached, her eyes shining. This is incredible, you too. How did you come up with this idea? Sarah asked the mastermind, Daniel said, nudging his sister playfully. The joy in Emily's voice filled the air like the sound of gentle rain, refreshing but bittersweet. In that moment, it felt like they had harnessed the spirit of celebration that Mara had always embodied. Perhaps the memories of laughter wouldn't only be ghosts that haunted them, but rather threads they could weave into the fabric of their new reality. Then, just as they began to catch their breath and bask in the moment of connection, a heavy silence fell over the room. A shadow loomed at the door beside them. The music softened as all heads turned. Daniel felt his heart skip. Who could it be this time? And why did it feel like this arrival was bound to shift everything again? Daniel's heart raced as the door swung open, revealing a tall figure cloaked in shadow. The revelry around him felt muted, and even the laughter dimmed, replaced by a tense curiosity. He squinted, trying to define the shape that left everyone momentarily frozen. "Can I help you?" he asked, the edge of concern creeping into his voice. The figure stepped forward, and as the light from the apartment poured over them, a familiar face emerged. It was Mark, Daniel's estranged father. A rush of emotions crashed over Daniel's: shock, anger, confusion. Mark had been absent for years, too lost in his own struggles to make amends with the family he left behind. Hi, Daniel managed, feeling as if the ground had shifted beneath him. The room's chatter resumed cautiously in the background, an uneasy hum. "Your sister invited me," Mark said, his words hesitant but firm. I thought it was time to try reaching out." Behind him, Sarah's enthusiasm melted into uncertainty. She had always been the bridge between their father and Daniel, filled with hope that someday their family could heal. But Daniel felt wall after wall rise within him. "Sarah, is that true?" Daniel asked, his voice softer than he intended, yet heavy with reproach. "She did," Sarah admitted, glancing nervously from her brother to their father. "I thought you thought what?" Daniel interrupted, the pain writhing in his chest. "That we could just act like nothing happened? That he could just waltz back into our lives?" Mark opened his mouth, but no words came. His gaze fell away, a mix of regret and frustration painted on his face. Emily, sensing the fracture in the air, stepped closer to Daniel, her hand resting on his arm, a small gesture of comfort. "Maybe he deserves a chance to explain," she urged quietly, though her eyes wavered with concern. Daniel shook his head, the anger burning brightly inside him. "They were all just excuses, weren't they?" Daniel said, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's all it ever was." A painful silence settled over the room. In that moment, the festive atmosphere felt heavy with expectations. Sarah's hopeful expression contrasted sharply with Daniel's simmering rage, creating a rift only they could see. Daniel took a breath, fighting the urge to shove his father out the door. "We moved on. We had to. You should have known that showing up now, Daniel." Emily interjected. "This isn't fair. It's not fair that he just shows up whenever he feels like it." Daniel snapped, his words sharp enough to slice through the tension. He turned back towards Mark, feeling the weight of all his unresolved feelings, years of absence, anger, and betrayal. "What do you want?" he asked, more demanding than curious. "I want to make things right," Mark replied, his voice shaky yet resolute. "I know I messed up. It's taken me too long, but I'm here. I need you to know that I'm trying." Tears prickled at Daniel's eyes as his defenses faltered, the echo of his father's past failures mixing with the desperation in Mark's voice. Each heartbeat felt like an eternity as he battled between anger and the faint flicker of hope for reconciliation, fighting against the years of hurt versus the slap of familial instinct that screamed for connection. As whispers hummed around them, a sudden crash resonated from the kitchen, a spilled drink perhaps, or something even more jarring. Attention shifted, and Daniel found that everyone's eyes were now glued on him and Mark. Daniel felt the weight of their gazes, his frustration bubbling over. What was he supposed to say? Just as panic began to set in, another noise erupted, a cheerful laugh from Sarah. She lifted a drink and exclaimed, "I know what we need. Let us lighten up and play some games." The room shifted, but the emotional whirlwind still swirled for Daniel as he locked eyes with his father. "Games? Seriously?" Daniel blurted as tension lingered heavy in the space between them. For a fleeting moment, he wondered if this could really be mended. But could it? When Mark raised his hand to break the tension, a small piece of his heart ached for reconciliation. But would this moment truly change everything? Before he could decide, laughter erupted around them once more, and the door to old wounds loomed overhead like a storm cloud ready to burst. And while Sarah rallied the guests for games, Daniel's mind spiraled. Where do you begin when everything feels so broken? Daniel stood at the center of the room, caught between the weight of his past and the vibrant chatter that filled the air. The laughter around him felt so distant, like an unreachably bright light in a dark tunnel. He glanced at Sarah, still pushing the guests to grab drinks and gather in the living room for games, her optimism shining through like a beacon. "Daniel?" Mark's voice pulled him back, a refrain that felt uncomfortably familiar, yet laced with something new: vulnerability. I really want you to give me a chance. A tight knot formed in Daniel's stomach. Years of anguish and silence had been compressed into this single moment. The sight of his father, standing awkwardly in the brightly lit room next to the remnants of a broken family, both enraged and confused him. "Why now, Dad?" Daniel asked, his voice edged with pain. "You had every chance before. We needed you back then." Mark swallowed hard. "I didn't know how to be there, Daniel. I thought time would fix things. But I see now that I was wrong." "Time?" Daniel scoffed. "Time didn't just fix things. It destroyed them." The flutter of conversations continued, but Daniel's world had narrowed to just the two of them. A game of charades could have started 10 feet away, yet all he felt was the burning need to understand the man who had abandoned him and Sarah, yet somehow still claimed he wanted to be part of their lives. "I know I can't erase the past," Mark stated, desperation creeping into his tone. "But I'm here now." He stepped forward, lowering his voice to a whisper. "I've changed. I want to be better for you, for Sarah, for us." Daniel shook his head, biting back the impulse to let his anger explode. He didn't want to feel hurt. He didn't want to feel hopeful. But something in Mark's eyes mirrored his own pain, and for the briefest moment, a sliver of understanding flickered. It was the faintest blush of a bruise, more evident for its contrast against the vibrant backdrop of the party. "What do you even know about us anymore?" Daniel felt the frustration bubbling up. "Do you even understand what we've been through?" "I lost so much too," Mark replied, his voice strained. "I lost you. I lost Sarah. I thought my job and my struggles were more important than family. It took hitting rock bottom to realize that I was wrong." Ongoing laughter from the living room mixed with the gravity of their conversation. Mark's words resonated within Daniel like echoes in a canyon, familiar yet distant. "Nothing will ever change what you did," Daniel responded, his voice softer now. "You can't just fix this with a few words." "I know I can't." Mark took another step forward, bridging yet another gap. "But I want to try. I'll fight for it, for you both." The sharp noise of a chair scraping across the floor pulled Daniel's attention back into the crowd. Sarah was clapping her hands, inviting everyone back into the game. He felt the pulse of the room return, laughter now colliding with the weight of their exchange as the guests gathered around Sarah, glancing curiously at him and Mark. He felt exposed like a raw nerve. He stepped back, shaking his head slightly. "Sorry, I can't do this right now," Daniel muttered, turning away. He didn't want to play games. Not with his heart in this fragile state. Daniel walked away from Mark, weaving through the guests, the distance from his father feeling needed, yet unbearable. He just needed a moment to breathe, to think. The bright lights and laughter around him faded, replaced by an internal storm swirling with confusion, hurt, and an unwillingness to let go. In the cramped hallway leading to the restroom, Daniel leaned against the wall, taking deep, measured breaths. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to compartmentalize everything that had just happened. It was too much. It couldn't just be okay overnight, could it? Suddenly, he heard Sarah's voice calling him, firm yet concerned. "Daniel, where are you?" Just as he steadied himself to face the music, a light laughter erupted across the hall. The sound was infectious, pulling him closer like a moth to a flame. But it also ignited a question. Could laughter truly heal deep wounds? "Come join us," Sarah chimed again, this time with a warmth that reached him even from a distance. With one last breath, Daniel straightened himself, the churning feelings still simmering. Maybe, he whispered to no one, maybe this could be the start. And as he stepped back into the light, a new sound caught his ear, a fragile, but resilient cry of a baby, echoing through the hall. In that moment, a sudden thought struck him. What if healing required vulnerability beyond just his own? What if it took more than just his heart, but the hearts entwined with his? As he entered the room again, he wondered, could the pieces begin to fit back together? Or was he just walking into an even bigger storm? Daniel stepped back into the lively room, the energy of the party engulfing him like a warm embrace. Laughter bubbled up around him, but the laughter felt like it belonged to someone else, someone who hadn't just confronted the ghosts of his past. Sarah waved him over with a bright smile, her hands full of colorful plastic cups, and a silly grin stretched across her face. "Daniel, come on, we need you for charades. You're up next." Her enthusiasm was contagious, but Daniel felt a weight still clinging to him, pulling him back. "Do I have to?" he asked, trying to hide the edge of uncertainty in his tone. "Yes," Sarah insisted, her feet tapping with excitement. "You need to lighten up. This is supposed to be fun." A look of determination crossed her face, the same look she used to convince him to try new things. Daniel inhaled deeply. There was something soothing in her insistence, a hint of normalcy amidst the chaos swirling inside him. As he walked towards the gathering, he caught glimpses of the other guests, their faces bright with laughter. He glanced toward Mark, who was standing alone against the wall, a shadow in a room full of light. Daniel's heart ached for a moment, but he quickly brushed it away. "Okay, I'm in," he called, forcing a smile which felt oddly foreign yet welcoming. He joined the circle, his eyes darting to the game board as Sarah explained the rules. The first player acted out a scene, and it was their job to guess. A cheerful buzz surrounded them as each turn brought laughter and playful banter. Daniel felt a creeping warmth spark inside him, a flicker of the joy he used to feel in moments like this. When it was his turn, nerves prickled at his skin. He took a sharp breath and observed the crowd, their expectant faces illuminated by the holiday lights. Forgetting his earlier turmoil for a split second, he dove into the performance. Clumsily miming an act as ridiculous as cooking a giant spaghetti, he feigned tossing pasta into the air and then dramatically slurped an imaginary noodle. Laughter erupted, and for the first time that evening, a genuine smile broke across his face. "Daniel, you're a natural," Sarah cheered, her laughter echoing joyfully. The game flowed smoothly, camaraderie blossoming, but there was still a shadow, the weight of his father's presence lingering in the corner of his mind. As the rounds continued, Daniel found himself stealing glances at Mark. Was he really different? Could he change? Doubt returned like a familiar visitor. But maybe it wasn't only about Mark. Maybe it was about him, too, finding a way to let go and take the first step, however shaky. Suddenly, a loud cheer echoed through the room. "Baby food tasting contest." Mark's voice rang out, a surprising sense of bravado shining through, breaking Daniel's train of thought. His eyes widened, and for a moment, Daniel held his breath. Had Mark actually volunteered for something? People gathered, excited chatter rising as they scooped up small jars of baby food. Sarah glanced back at Daniel, her brows raised in playful disbelief. "Come on, are you in?" she asked. Daniel chuckled, a nervous laugh bubbling up. "You're kidding, right?" "Nope. Just think of the wacky pictures we can post," she said, nudging him playfully. Against all odds, a wave of laughter washed over him again, a feeling he hadn't expected to reclaim. Reluctantly, yet eagerly, Daniel stepped forward alongside Mark, taking a seat at the makeshift table for the contest. As they sat, Daniel couldn't shake the unease creeping back in. But watching Mark hold a spoon of pureed peas, nervous laughter spilling from his lips, created a surreal sense of camaraderie. "Ready?" Mark asked, his voice half pinging with anxiety and excitement, a digital laugh in the making. "Let us make this memorable," Daniel replied, his heart still pounding, but a spark of hope flickering amid the chaos. As they prepared for the next challenge, Daniel wrestled with an unexpected surge of curiosity. Healing began with a step, didn't it? But just as laughter took flight, a sudden crash from the kitchen shattered the moment. What had happened now? Daniel turned instinctively, dread creeping in. Would this break the fleeting bond he'd begun to feel, or could it lead to something unexpected? Daniel's heart raced as he spun toward the kitchen, a sense of urgency coursing through him. The laughter and cheers faded into a distant hum, replaced by the chaotic sound of clattering dishes and muffled exclamations. He shot a quick glance at Mark, who wore a mix of surprise and confusion, his spoon with an untouched scoop of baby food hovering in the air. "Stay here. I'll check it out," Daniel said, his voice steady despite the knot forming in his stomach. With quick steps, he navigated through the crowd, the strain of his earlier worries flaring back up. What if it was something serious? The atmosphere had shifted. It suddenly felt heavy with anticipation. As he reached the kitchen doorway, Daniel paused, taking a moment to collect himself before stepping inside. The scene that met him was unexpected. A tray of baby food jars had toppled over, creating a colorful mess on the floor. But it wasn't just the splattered vegetables that caught his attention. His mother, of all people, was there, kneeling and trying to clean up the chaos while struggling to suppress a laugh. "I'm fine. I just wanted to help out," she exclaimed, though her smile was sheepish. "Mom, what are you doing here?" he asked, surprise coating his words. "I thought I'd bring some homemade treats for the little ones, but it looks like I'm better at dropping things than cooking." She chuckled, brushing back her hair that had fallen out of place. Her carefree attitude was infectious, and despite the mess around them, Daniel felt an unexpected warmth grow within him. This was the mother he remembered, the one who made every holiday special, who believed in the magic of laughter and love. "Instead of just cleaning, why don't I help?" Daniel offered, his own voice lightening. For the first time that evening, he felt the heaviness in his heart dissipate. Together, they started picking up the jars and wiping down the floor. "I didn't mean to crash your party. This was supposed to be a surprise," she said, glancing at him with a teasing smile. "Surprise," he joked, his heart swelling. "You always did know how to make an entrance." As they worked side by side, a sudden thought struck Daniel. This moment felt good. It felt normal. They were sharing a simple task, but it was layered with history, connection, and the possibility of healing. "Mom, can we talk?" he asked, hesitating for just a heartbeat. "About some things?" Her smile softened, and she nodded. "Sure, honey. Whenever you're ready." They finished cleaning up, and Daniel led her into the living room, where Mark was still waiting with the crowd, his spoon now resting on the table in front of him. The game had paused momentarily, and as Sarah began teasing Mark about his adventurous spirit, laughter returned to the air like a welcome friend. "Looks like you're our next big star," Daniel teased as he joined the group, his mother following beside him. Mark's attention shifted from the game to Daniel and his mom. "What did I miss?" "Just a little mess that turned into a moment," Daniel replied, exchanging a knowing glance with his mother, who looked pleased to see him easing into the festivities. As they settled back into the game, Daniel felt lighter. He caught Mark's eye across the table, and in that fleeting moment, something shifted. Maybe this was all about connection, the rebuilding of bridges that had been broken for too long. But just as Daniel began to truly enjoy himself, another loud crash echoed from the back of the house. This time, the sound was different, sharp, urgent. "Seriously?" Daniel blurted, groaning softly. He exchanged worried glances with Sarah, Mark, and his mom. What could possibly happen next? With newfound determination, he decided he wouldn't let this moment derail everything. Maybe it was a sign that things would keep getting messy, but that was a part of life. He took a deep breath, ready to face whatever the universe threw at him next. But he couldn't shake the question lingering in the back of his mind this time. What would it mean for all of them? Daniel sighed, the sound escaping him like a balloon losing air. He felt a bubbling tension rise in his chest as he tightened his grip on the door frame. The laughter had felt so invigorating just moments before, and now, it seemed a fragile veneer that could splinter with one misstep. He followed the shouting and loud giggles to the back of the house, each step echoing a sense of urgency. As he reached the doorway, he found Sarah, Mark, and Laura huddled around the mess on the floor, more baby food jars, this time scattered with a colorful array of smashed fruits and vegetables. A large glass jar had shattered, causing shards to glisten ominously in the light like fallen stars. Okay, everyone. Back up," Daniel commanded, hands raised like officers directing traffic. "Let us clear some space." His heart sped up as he moved to assess the chaos, feeling a sense of responsibility creeping back in. "Daddy, it was an accident. I was just trying to help." Sarah's voice trembled, her eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. "Hey, it's okay," Daniel soothed, kneeling beside her and brushing some errant curls away from her face. "It happens. No one is hurt, right? Just a little mess. We can handle it together." Mark moved in closer, reaching for a broom. "I got this," he said with unexpected enthusiasm. Daniel looked up, surprise flickering across his face. Was his father genuinely trying to lend a hand? In that instant, some of the barriers in Daniel's mind began to soften. "Are you sure?" Daniel started, but quickly reassured himself. Perhaps this was a moment for collaboration, not just condemnation. "All right, let us just all gather what we can." Laura rushed over to grab a dustpan, and they began to clean up the wreckage together. Each little bit of debris picked up felt symbolic, the beginnings of repair not just of the kitchen but also of their scattered hearts. "I'll grab some more wipes," Laura called as she dashed back into the kitchen, leaving Daniel to share a brief glance with Mark. Daniel felt conflicted, the undercurrent between them shifting again, just like the chaos that had drawn them together in this moment. "Look, I know I don't have much right to say anything," Mark started, lowering his voice. "But I do want to change. I want to be part of this, however it may look." "I don't know if it's that simple," Daniel replied, resolving to remain firm, even if his heart pounded with the urge to hope. "No, you're right. It won't be simple. But I'll help clean up, and one day, I'll earn back your trust." "Trust is earned over time," Daniel replied, his words feeling heavy with the ghosts of memories. But a flicker of hope danced in his chest. As they finished cleaning, laughter returned, lightening the air once more. Sarah not only scrambled to help, but began to sing a silly song about vegetables, her voice brightening the room and breaking the melancholy atmosphere. Daniel couldn't help but smile at her charm. It flowed through him like a balm against the wounds that had cut deep in his heart. The musical notes twisted together with the remnants of the kitchen chaos, creating a new harmony. Each family member contributed, Emily and Mark joking about the flavors of baby food, Laura bringing in fresh wipes, and cracking giggles with every new smoothie flavor, as they settled back into the main space. Daniel felt his heart uncoil just a little, an adjustment, a new position on the spectrum of grief and joy. Daniel maneuvered to the center of the action as everyone sat back around the table, a juxtaposition of hope and healing forming like promises in the air. "All right," he said, glancing at them all, "let us play again. But this time, there's a rule. We embrace the mess, and we do it together." Cheers erupted as laughter resonated once more, filling the room with a unique kind of joy that felt thick enough to hold. The game resumed, and as rounds progressed, something incredible began to unfold. Daniel felt a thread of connection weaving between him and Mark, tentative yet undeniable. Each guess and each cheer slowly stitched their past into something that could perhaps morph into a future. Daniel could feel the community around him, no longer simply bystanders to his struggle, now active participants willing to create a new narrative. As the game went on, voices danced, and the space transformed, freeing Daniel to realize that life would always come with chaos, laughter, and the shattering of glass. But it was also about rebuilding, about making each moment count, even the complicated, messy ones. With a gentle nudge from Sarah, who remained a source of endless joy, he felt a profound shift, a realization blooming within him. Perhaps tears could be woven into celebrations, and love, the real secret ingredient, could emerge even from the messiest moments. And when they all gathered for one last round of cheers, Daniel felt the warmth of community embrace him like a familiar song. "Here's to family," he declared, his voice strong amidst the laughter, acknowledging every single moment that had brought them together. As the evening wrapped up, Daniel hugged Sarah tightly, feeling as if they both had emerged a little stronger. They had faced not just the shattered pieces, but also the warmth that surrounded them, healing like a simmering pot of soup brewing with love. This was their beginning, and Daniel was ready to embrace whatever awaited them next. Now, take a moment. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss exclusive stories and transformations. Leave a like to feed the algorithm. Drop a comment about your favorite part, and share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message of hope and connection. Let us grow this community together. Don't wait, not even one more second.